This week's talk is called How to Move Forward When You Begin Again. And I got on this topic because I kept thinking about all the restarts that I have in my life all the time and how they're never total restarts because I'm always starting from the place of the new knowledge I've gained from the last start. And so it's never like it's all the way back, like I'm this infant again restarting. I'm no longer innocent. I'm no longer fresh out of the womb. I am this grown man with this fullness of experience, and you are this person with fullness of experience that we bring to life when we start new. Now, a lot of times, like the saying, back to the old drawing board, makes us feel like something negative has occurred, makes us feel like something, isn't right. And so what we sometimes do is try to push through with what we've already created, and it's already whacked out, and then we push and we pull and we do this because we don't want to have to start over again. And it gets even more tangled till all of a sudden we're tripping over ourselves. Starting over again is not a bad thing. In fact, it can be the most wondrous thing when we are willing to do it and see it as the right time. It is surrendering to that higher power. Now, one of the ways in which this came forth for me this past week was in the audio to a video I'm working on. The video came out great, but the audio was having some problems. So I have all this software that helps me tweak this stuff. And I got in there and I started tweaking it. And I started tweaking it. And I started tweaking it until it got so bent out of shape. And I spent a whole day tweaking this thing, at least 8 to 10 hours. And by the end of the 10 hours, it was clear to me that it was a mess, that I wasn't any closer to having it sound the way I wanted. Now, I could have pushed forward and kept tweaking, but I knew it was time to start again. So I cleared out everything I had done. I went back to the initial state. And then the next morning, fresh start. It's always good to sleep on stuff. Give yourself a fresh start. I got up and I started again. And I accomplished way more than I would have if I try to keep going with it. And it sounds way better because I was able to apply everything I learned that didn't work. And so when we start over, that's the opportunity to apply everything we learned that did not work. So it is not, going back to the drawing board is not a bad thing. My wife and I use this idea of starting again very, very often. Whenever we get into a space of feeling disconnected or at odds with each other, a lot of times one of us will turn to the other and say, let's have a do-over. Let's start again. And this has become, we get better and better at this. Now, the interesting thing is sometimes one do-over isn't enough. Sometimes we have to do it over, and then we realize, well, maybe we need to do it over again, and then maybe we need to do it over again. But just like Thomas Edison, who had tried the light bulb 1,000 times, and though all of them was not always starting from scratch, he learned that starting from scratch always brought with him, when he was asked about how could you do this thing 1,000 times, he said, every time I learned something. I didn't have 1,000 failures. I had 1,000 learning experiences. That's the opportunity when we clear our plate and start fresh. And so my wife and I, we don't take anywhere near 1,000 times before we get started. But sometimes a couple of times a restart is necessary because we have that persistence and that commitment to each other and that love for each other. If you have the persistence, commitment, and love for something, it's going to work out. You got to believe in yourself the way Ash and I believe in our relationship and each other. So when we have these restarts, we know we're coming from that deeper place of learning what didn't work, trying something different so that we get to move our relationship forward, which it always does. It always does. We always learn from where we were, move forward, and have a better relationship because of it. It's one of the things I love most about being with my wife, is how our relationship evolves. So in this space of evolution, sometimes you have to start over, like I keep saying. So the other example I have for you is American football. Now, for those of you who are not clear about what American football is, it's this pigskin that's shaped in this very strange shape that gets run and thrown down the field, and you get 4 downs, and then you maybe get some more downs to try to march down the field into the goal. Well, a lot of times, the best strategy when you're realizing you're not getting anywhere and you've run out of chances is what's called a punt. They kick the ball down the field, give it to the other team, not giving up on the game, but actually knowing for themselves that they're going to get a fresh start, a fresh set of downs, and a fresh new beginning by punting and giving the ball up and getting the breather the offense may need to regroup, to restart again, to march down that field to win that game. That's what we have the opportunity to do in our lives. Punt. Sometimes that's what's called for. If you're in a mess, if things are bogged down, if things are just not working the way you want, sometimes pushing through may get you there, but more times than not, punting, taking the time out to regroup, maybe sleeping on it, starting again fresh, and believing in your commitment to get there. Persistence is not, this is a confusion that can happen for folks. Persistence is not constantly banging your head against the wall. Persistence is in the knowing that you're going to reach your accomplishment. You're going to reach your goal. You're going to have what it is you want to have in your life. Your dream is going to come true. Whether you start again, punt, or keep going, but know what's best to be done. The persistence is in the knowing, because it's out of the knowing that we get to see much more clearly and not get caught up as, oh no, this is my only chance. If I don't follow through this time, it's all over. I got to tell you, when I first met my wife, and I had that sensation sometimes that if I didn't work something out with her right now, the relationship was over. And I am so happy that I got to a place of knowing that the relationship could stand beyond whatever it is we were going through, because it has, and it's evolved and turned into something wonderful. But it took work. It took persistence. It took a knowing that this was what was right for me. So it takes a knowing of what is right for you. It takes that knowing and being persistent in the knowing that actually gets you the things you want to have in your life, not the persistence of action, particularly if that action is having you bang your head against the wall. Don't do it. Don't be banging your head against the wall. Breathe. Step back. Go for a walk. Do something else. Clear the space. Clear your pad. Go back to the drawing board. Rip off the sheet that's there and start anew with the same belief, faith, knowing that, of course, whatever it is you're after will come to fruition. Don't be afraid to punt. Don't be afraid to step back. It is the fear itself. Like Roosevelt said, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Don't be afraid. What is yours is yours. I know that the relationship with my wife, the magnificent, loving relationship that we have, is ours. So when we need a time out, it's really good to take it. If you have a project, I knew that if I stepped back from that audio, that if I started fresh, I could get to where it needed to go. Know these things for yourself. That's where the persistence lies, not in the scratching forward, but inch by inch. Though sometimes that may be what you are called to do. But the persistence itself and the knowing that you will reach where you're going, that is the key. You move forward by starting again with your persistence and with the learning of what didn't work in the first place. Learn from your mistakes. You did nothing wrong. You simply had another fantastic learning opportunity. Be willing to start fresh, because in the starting fresh, when you clean your plate, you get to love yourself. And loving yourself, taking care of yourself, is the deepest of accomplishments that you can create for yourself anyway. Your dreams are yours to have. I know for you that you get to have your dreams the way I know for me I get to have mine. That's the persistence. Be willing to start again. I love you. Thank you.
You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God.